The theme of Refugee Week 2022 is healing. Refugee Week is about celebrating the connections and commonalities that bring us together, while also recognizing the differences between our experiences. So we chose the theme healing because it's something that's important to all of us, whether it's healing from illness, loss, trauma, healing divisions between us, or the healing of our planet. Healing is about the possibility of starting again. And no one understands this better than people who've lost their homes because of violence and war. It's been really interesting to read and consult people about the idea of healing over the past few months. And it's brought up several important questions. Two that have stayed with me have been, firstly, how do we heal in a world that is still broken and is still breaking us? And secondly, how do we value and celebrate healing in a way that isn't about forgetting or masking suffering, but which pushes us to create a more caring world? And I know that you'll have lots of other questions and ideas as we go through today, including when we start to think about how we'd like to respond to the theme of healing during Refugee Week. So please keep the conversation flowing. We'll be taking notes, and I know we'll go away with lots to think about. Now I'm delighted to hand over to Laura Nyahuye, who's an artist, designer, and founder and CEO of Maokwo, and our chair today, to kick off our first section.
Thank you, Emily. It's good. It's really good to be here. So in exploring, really thinking about, the word healing in connection with Refugee Week. What does it mean? So according to Google, it means it's the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. For me, healing is the search and process of becoming who one is meant to be, mentally or physically, in the midst of the chaos of the world. And how do we, the question that's been coming to me is, how do we even explore and embrace when we are this healing, when we are fighting a system that continues to come up with laws that are firmly closing borders to refugees, to asylum seekers fleeing war and persecution? And how do we heal in the midst of that, when the wounds that we are tending to are continually being poked and cut open over and over and over again? And this, for example, this end of November, we lost 27 lives whilst they were crossing the channel. For me, healing is individual, yet it's also a collective process. It's a state. Healing in its state is a process that is painful, yet it's also necessary. So in my everyday life, mothering, working, navigating the injustices of the world, my healing is on a continuous loop. So what do I mean when I say, for me, healing is individual? So as I reflected, I acknowledge very strongly that without my faith and my trust in God, healing becomes a very elusive dream for me. It's something that is not tangible. It's something that does not exist in my own personal life. And I cannot reach healing without that. And I understand and acknowledge that it comes in different forms in each and every one of us, what that space looks like. And how is healing a collective process? For example, in gatherings like these ones, where we come together from all walks of life, allies, advocates, activists, refugees, whether you're in the process of seeking asylum or a refugee, migrant, there is healing in this place right now, in the place of togetherness. And As an artist, I have shared art workshops and projects in the form of writing, theater, storytelling, producing projects that have a motive to heal, to see change, to express. It has worked for me when I was going through my own immigration process and challenges and personal challenges, and it still works for me now in the challenges that I have to navigate in my everyday life. So I choose to use art, creativity, to radically fight for healing for myself and others. Thank you. So next, I would love to invite our next speaker. And please do, like as Emily shared, I forgot to introduce myself, that I am chairing this space and really excited to be here. So next, I would like to introduce Loraine, all the way from Coventry, where I am, who is the chairperson of Coventry Asylum and Refugee Action Groups, CARAG, and a member of the Refugee Advisory Group. So Loraine, over to you.
Thank you very much, Laura. And thank you so much for your so powerful speech. I don't even know how to follow that, but I will try. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely you can't heal a wound if it's an open wound and the system keeps stabbing on it, just like Laura put it. You can't heal a wound if the circumstances which caused the wounds remain. You can't heal a wound in a hostile environment. You can't heal a wound if you have drowned in the sea and people are laughing at you while you drown. You can't heal a wound if you are blamed for that wound. Maslow's hierarchy of needs has 5 stages. We don't even meet the first one. The basic needs to food, water, warmth, housing, and resting. We are tired. We are tired of being told we are not allowed to eat. We are tired of being told we are not allowed to work. We are tired of being told we are not welcome. Just to quote Darina Stoyanova on healing, she said, "Healing requires from us to stop struggling, but to enjoy life more and endure less," end of quote. We struggle more. Again, to quote the father of medicine, Hippocrates, on healing, he said, "Healing is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity," end of quote. We don't have opportunities. I said I'm tired, but I'm also angry. And I'm not alone in the feeling of rage and anger. Healing can only when we unite and we resist. Healing can only come when we know others are fighting back against the hostile environment. So if you ask, what does healing mean to us going through the asylum system? I would say action, raising your voices everywhere and as loud as possible to campaign for a free and safe passage, advocating for leave to remain for people who are undocumented amongst us and people who have been refused asylum in this country. I also want to bring to your attention the aspect of community care. In this case, I want to refer to groups like Coventry Asylum and Refugee Action Group, which I'm part. Groups like CARAG, it helps us to feel that we are not alone. We meet weekly, we check on each other, we eat together, we enjoy moments of laughter together, celebrate our successes together. Talking to someone who has lived experience And I think we don't realize how impactful it is just to hear someone saying, me too. It is healing. So all in all, what I'm saying is, let us, all of us, put a thumb in the eye of the hostile environment. Only then we can begin to heal. Thank you very much.
Wow. Powerful. Thank you so much, Loraine. There's so much in there that we can't even begin to, unpick. Thank you so much. And with this in mind, we are about to go into breakout rooms, and we have a question for discussions. And the first question that we have for our breakout room is, what inspires you about the theme of healing? And what questions does it bring up for you? So in your breakout rooms, there will not necessarily be someone who is leading this. It's more of a discussion and picking out of the things, the points that are really standing out. And then when we come back after the breakout rooms, we'll share into the chat what stood out for you during that discussion, and bearing in mind what has been shared already. So over to you, Emily. You will take us into our breakout rooms. Welcome back, everyone. I hope and I believe you've had amazing conversations. So would you mind typing into the chats the points that came up for you? And if there's any one or two people who would like to share something that came up from your charts. We don't have long, but at least if we hear a little bit of that, and then we will talk about it further down our agenda. So is there anyone who would like to share one or two things? Oh, we've got Anan. Yeah. You're on mute. Okay.
Hi, yeah, I'm on mute. I'm Anan, yeah, Anan. We were discussing how healing, we always talk about healing like it's something that you're going to reach, and we constantly chase healing. But in fact, sometimes it's just about accepting your wounds. Like some wounds are chronic, they're not meant to heal. And healing could be more of accepting them, learning how to live with them, and learning how to accept the episodes and the new person that you've become, the person who is now not going to heal, who has a wound that would not heal, and that should be okay. It shouldn't be a burden that we must heal. And sometimes there's so much pressure that you're not moving on, but sometimes you really can't move on. And like I told people that for more than a year, I've been trying to go back to my pre-UK self. And then I realized that's not possible. I'm a new person now. And even if I like that person, I need to learn how to love the new person that I am, the UK person. And that should be okay. I shouldn't heal. I shouldn't keep chasing the idea of healing, of reaching sanctuary or heaven or that place that's called unhealed.
Wow. That is just so powerful. We could sit with that for the rest of the session. Wow. Yeah. Is there a hand? Thank you so much for sharing this. Is there any other hand that I cannot see that's up? Emily, Tom, can you see any hand? I can't see any other hand, but there's a lot of sharing on the chat, in the chat, and
Dina
I can see.
Just raised her hand, Laura.
Sorry, who's got?
Dina.
Oh yeah, yes, Dina, go on.
Thank you. I didn't realize I could just write on the chat, but yeah, I'll share now.
Yeah.
what kind of I think quite a lot, and I mentioned at the group is how we can find self-regulation ways for trauma and healing that could be useful to the families we work with. So when they're moved from Greece, because the families we work with, they don't necessarily want to stay in Greece forever, and they will be moved at any point. We tend to kind of sometimes keep in touch, but sometimes lose contact, unfortunately, on the way. But we're really concerned about how we can equip them, if you like, with some self-regulation kind of ways, maybe through play or through creativity that they can take with them wherever they go next. And whenever they are in a difficult situation or in a stressful situation, they can revisit. And that could be a gift we're all sharing together, kind of, be able to like self-regulate and create safe places for themselves wherever they go next.
Thank you so much, Dina. So that's, I don't normally use the word the empowering, but it's just moving that human in the space that they feel empowered to carry on. Thank you. Thank you, Dina. And Alan.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everyone. Rebecca asked a very interesting question in the breakout groups that we had. She said, how do you know that one has healed? And it even brought me to, what Loraine was saying. If someone is going through the process, can they ever heal during the process? Here in Nottingham, we've got people who've been applying for asylum, seeking for asylum for the past 10, 15 years. Are we saying they don't heal in that whole period? 10, 15 years of trauma? Or can they heal during the process? I don't have a response. I don't have an answer. It's just something that I want all of us to think about. At what stage does healing finish? When does someone say, I'm healed? Or maybe even the first question is, when does healing start? Let's forget about finishing. Let's think about, when does healing start? Is it when you've got people around you, who are supporting you, who are giving you as much of a family environment as you want? Or could it be a situation whereby, some people are quite introvert, they are okay being on their own? Could that instigate their own healing? Like I said, these are just questions that have just been popping up in my head when Rebecca asked me the question, and I think it's something worth pondering about. Thank you.
Big questions. Thank you so much, Alan. A lot to think about. And we will have Shivan. Did I? Yes. And that will be like our last question before the next breakout. Thank you. Over to you.
Yes, hello, everyone. So basically, I would like to start with this diagram. I don't know if it's visible to everyone. And I like to use this diagram just to help my family to get over stuff. So basically, it starts with, this is your life being happy or having stuff in your life, and this is the time. And so basically, something happens and then you get into a shock. It could be anything in life. And then you get frustrated. And then you get down to depression, which is like the rock bottom, you can call it, or anything. And knowing that you're rock bottom, then you have the experiment. So you do stuff in your life. You try to, go out, meet with people, do activities, and then you make a decision. And that decision is like having accepted your shock. And then you get up here where it says integration, and you just continue your life. So I like this diagram because it makes things more simple. So if you're having anything or some people are going through difficult times, you can try to explain this diagram to them and show them where they are and what they can do to sort of get out of there. And so that was my point.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel so fulfilled just with this first half. Thank you. That was so powerful.
Thank you.
Siobhan. We are going into our second phase, and I would like to introduce Elli, and who is the director of Room to Heal, a London-based organization that uses community to support people who have experienced torture and organized violence to rebuild their lives in exile. Over to you, Elli. You're on mute.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I'd suggest maybe going on to speaker view because I'm going to share my screen and do a slideshow. So just 1 second. Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. So I'm just going to tell you a bit about our members. So our members are our community in London. So I'm just trying to get rid of that. So they're torture survivors from over 30 countries. And the majority of people have post-traumatic stress disorder and often complex PTSD, which means many people have faced multiple traumas. And yeah, they have depression as well. As many people have mentioned today, the hostile environment, when people arrive in the UK, the hostile environment is often seen as a second or third trauma for the people that we're supporting. And many of our members feel very isolated and alone when they come to Room to Heal. So the Room to Heal approach is very much the emphasis on that members have long-term mental health problems. These are not short-term fixes that can be, the intervention can't be short-term, basically. It's a long-term kind of journey that people are on. And that we really see that human connection is an essential part of the healing process. We recognize that healing takes time, and like has been mentioned today already, and Anne mentioned it, that maybe there's no end point. Healing is a journey that we're all on. It's very specific to the individual, and Laura, you spoke to that earlier on. And it's non-linear. There can be periods where people are feeling much more positive and their mental health has really improved. And then there can be periods like maybe there's external shocks that create people to, have kind of go down again into, having serious mental health problems. So it's non-linear in the journey. And our approach is like an integrated model of support that we provide. So our therapeutic intervention is group therapy. Within a wider community setting of torture survivors. And we feel that casework is a really important aspect of that support, because obviously it's futile to offer any kind of support if someone's homeless or they're not able to apply for asylum or get the support they need in that respect. So that's integral to the work that we do. And we also believe that nature has a real role to play in supporting people on their healing journey. So in terms of nature, I think we've mentioned it already today, but it's around being in a place where you feel safe and you have that opportunity to just be. And this is a picture of the garden where we meet on a weekly basis. But also not only nature, but having kind of a playful aspect and kind of seeing people as full human beings and being able to laugh as well as cry. And we definitely see that as a key aspect of our work. So we do a lot of fun things as well as the more serious group therapy. And that's a recent picture of some people gathering in our community garden. So our work kind of challenges the expert-patient model of healing. We feel that the emphasis should be on peer-led healing. It serves to kind of nature a sense of belonging and to know that you're not alone. Others are going through similar experiences to you. One of the members of the group said, one time I remember one of the others said exactly what I wanted to say. It was comforting whilst also sad, knowing that you're not alone. And that may seem really simple, but it's really fundamental to the group work that we do, people realizing that they're not alone and people are going through very similar experiences and they can get support from one another. And there's, sorry, just go back there. There's, sorry about this. There's someone called Ghadiali who he's a psychiatrist, and he talks about, I'll stop sharing and I'll just explain it to you. He talks about the authenticity of lived experience being key to healing, and group therapy allows that to happen. So that's really important in our work. And I would just say to end that basically what we believe is that often there's not a solution to people's problems, particularly living in the hostile environment that people face right now. And it's recognizing sometimes there is no solution, but coming together and supporting one another can enable people to build the strength and resilience to get through the here and now and to have hope for the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Elli. There was something quite so powerful about, when you mentioned about the authenticity of like lived experience really integrated in that process of healing. It's really powerful and quite comforting as well. Yeah, to hear that. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
So next, I would like to introduce Ashish, who is a filmmaker and activist who organizes with Climate Justice Collective Wrecked of the Earth. Over to you, Ashish.
Thanks so much. It's really amazing to be here actually, and just to just to hit. I mean, there's just so much rich wisdom that's just kind of pouring out. It kind of it feels kind of hard to sort of follow, really. So I do a lot of work around climate and climate justice, and I do a lot of work that is about kind of encouraging people who are thinking about the climate crisis from, I guess, from a kind of prism of crisis, of that there's a kind of awareness of the symptoms of the climate crisis, that actually there's a way that to take a kind of a deeper look, to establish a deeper and wider perspective, and think not just of the kind of breakdown of the Earth's ecology in the abstract, but to actually understand it as kind of coming out of deeper historical processes. It becomes a way of kind of also finding oneself in relation to that kind of that wider planetary situation that we're a part of. So, I mean, specifically, I kind of spend a lot of time talking to people about the relationship between empire, between race and inequality as drivers that have created the kind of problems that, you know, we tend to see expressed in terms of rising sea levels or forced migration and the kind of geopolitical stories that that then signify crisis. I think that's a really, and I guess that's, I mean, the relationship between that prism and healing is that, you know, as we look not just at the symptoms but at the cause, we find ourselves in a situation where, well, perhaps of less anxiety, less kind of trying to put a plaster on a wound that, you know, that continues to grow, and that more we're able to step back and look at what are the roots of the crisis that we're in, and what kind of solutions actually might be adequate to the nature of the crisis that we face. I think in terms of the climate crisis, that means really thinking not just about, for example, reducing the level of carbon in the Earth's atmosphere, but really going deeper to look at the structural connection between inequality and the climate crisis, and really thinking about the role of resources, of reparations. You know, what is the kind of infrastructure that can be built? What's the kind of sharing of means that can be that can allow a new world to emerge? I think, I mean, the reason that it kind of feels like strange to sort of be talking at this level is because we are talking very much at the level of kind of personal agency, and, you know, in some ways it feels kind of inappropriate and like kind of unhelpful to start talking about, you know, like you know, geopolitics and but I think that, you know, we all like exist within a framework, right? We all exist within a world that we choose to inhabit, and recognizing, you know, the nature of the planet that sustains us, I think actually is also a pathway to healing. And I guess we're all also like, you know, it's very easy to sort of project all of the problem onto the system that's not us. You know, we're good, you know, but actually maybe part of that healing is also about like acknowledging and accepting our complicity within those systems, and that and which kind of then sort of brings us to the idea of like transformation, right? Where does transformation actually come from? Like, where in ourselves does it come from? And so I think, you know, like within that frame, actually it becomes like, you know, like that response to the climate crisis also becomes a way to think about how we relate to one another, and how we relate to ourselves, and how we relate to our own bodies. I guess I kind of think within that framework just of the importance of imagination. You know, that gift, that faculty that we each one of us have within ourselves, that allows us to, I guess, retreat from those systems that are, you know, that we're kind of so complicit in, and to find that place of possibility, that place of transformation within ourselves that actually connects us to our own bodies, and it gives us the scope to imagine new worlds.
Thank you so much, Ashish. You know, like it really, like just what just stood out to me is how to think this in a very broader way. Like I just wrote here that it's a way of looking at self, all of us in connection with Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is the one who is carrying us, no matter what our background is. Thank you. Thank you for your sharing. We are now about to go off into the next breakout room. And what we will be discussing is what activities might we do around healing for Refugee Week 22? And what questions do you have about this? We will do the same, have conversation, and then come back to share. So over to you, Tom. I hope you had really amazing conversations. If you don't mind, please share what you discussed, whatever is burning. If you could share questions, thoughts. For this, the question that we thought would be quite practical before we close, because we only have a few minutes, is maybe one or two people can possibly share an action that they would like to take as a result of anything that came up in this meeting. So, because we only have a few minutes before we close, but also if you could share in the chats what you discussed, because there's a lot to explore. Yeah. So is anyone up for sharing? I can't see any hands. Okay, I can see from Richard White here. It's a question. Can a public event referencing trauma be healing? That's a really important question. Okay, Simone.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of things, but we thought that self-help groups, encouraging to set up self-help groups for refugees, that could be very, very supportive, because they're kind of like free, and that they could start with them being organized by somebody with a mental health background, and then they could continue independently. But it just gets them together, introduce them to each other, and just having someone to talk to can be very, very helpful. We also thought that, because it's getting a little bit off activities, but a fact sheet could be put together with contact people in their community, like Refugee Action, City of Sanctuary, Amnesty International, just to have a contact person who could be sympathetic towards them and help them. And like citizens' advice, and anything that could be of use.
Oh, wow. That is so practical. Thank you so much. Yeah, really, really practical. Yeah. And I can see here on the chat, I'm going to convene a group of experts by experience to inform what we do for Refugee Week in our local area. So this has been amazing. And so that, oh, okay, we've got Hazel and we've got Emily. We've got Hazel and Megan, because I'm looking at the time, we're supposed to close at past, isn't it, too? Hazel and Megan, if you could give us a quick, and then we can...
Very quickly, it's just an idea that's just occurred to me. Someone talked earlier on, or I think it was one of the posts on chat about gardens being very healing, and they are. And I wondered whether trying to get local authorities to designate a bit of allotment space specifically for asylum seekers and migrants might be a helpful way for people to grow vegetables that will grow in this country that are familiar to them, give them some food, and also a supportive environment in which to begin while they're gardening to talk about experiences and open up a bit more.
Thank you, Hazel. Wonderful share. And over to you, Nagin.
Okay, I will also very fast to say that something not discussed in our group, but came out of my mind after the reflections of today. Like, I would also like us to think a little bit like healing not only one direction, only for migrants, but also for local communities of where we are living. And we also have responsibility to heal them against racism and against all the prejudice that they have against the community. So I think we have to think it as a more entire thing, not only one group, because otherwise there is a risk that it can be something more regarding power relations. So that's what I want to say. If I explained, I hope I explained.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. So as we close, I heard a lot. I heard there's an acceptance in this process of healing. There's the acceptance that has come up, and the fact that we are not only fighting against the system, it is about the environment, it's about climate justice, but it's also about acknowledging that the trauma is there and there is re-trauma, it's going over and over again, but also understanding that maybe there's not a real answer as to this is the place of healing. So it's a process that is quite open, but this space also brings us a lot of nuggets of wisdom. It's been amazing. And I can go on, but over to you, Emily. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Over to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you to all the wonderful speakers. I know we're at time. There was a few things I was going to share about what's coming up, so I'm going to send them by email instead as a follow-up to this. And we'll also share what people have shared in the chat, and we'll share a recording a little bit later on. And we'll definitely, it's been such a wonderful conversation, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation in the run-up to Refugee Week in June. And there's so much that we are taking away with us. And I think definitely something that's going to stay with me is something a few people have said, including yourself, Laura, about how healing being together can be. And I think often it can feel, this theme, might feel a bit overwhelming or intimidating, and what can we do? And I think something that's come through in several conversations is the power of being together, standing in solidarity with each other, and these collective spaces. So I think that's something we'll take forward with us to Refugee Week. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of day, and look forward to seeing you soon.